this little intro is definitely going to be a little bit lengthier than normal. All I got to say is that with all the chaos that we have going on right now, at least we have Alex Stein.
We're here at UT Austin, where I just got assaulted by transgender pro-Palestine people. I didn't realize gay for Palestine was actually real. But watch this video. Hey, can I ask you a question? In Palestine, aren't they mean to trans people? Aren't they mean to trans people? We're here at UT Austin, and trans people are out here protesting for Palestine, but don't Palestinians throw gay people off roofs?
That right there was only about 20 seconds or whatnot. But then again, though, at the same time, though, it does obviously get much, much more serious when you go north of the Mason-Dixon line, as you guys are about to see. This right here, my friends, is the scene that occurred last night. And when I mean last night, I mean on Monday night. Of course, it's continuing through Tuesday night, even though this video is obviously coming out on Wednesday night at New York University and Columbia University. So obviously these protests are continuing, and they're probably going to be something that we're going to be talking about a lot over the course of the summer, because as I have said before, these things are probably going to continue, yet they're probably going to be more and more sporadic, meaning in and out, probably small spots of being able to breathe. But this video right here is going to ask the question if these protests are performative. Now, I'm showing you guys some footage right now. This right here is from earlier this year, where a young girl decided to threaten the city council in Bakersfield, California. I put this little clip in a video that I did earlier this year. It was about the protests that were going on in San Francisco. As a matter of fact, it was about a week and a half ago when it happened, where people were blocking the road, and of course people were impeding traffic, and of course I explained how it was that people were eventually going to get fed up with this. The exact same way that people are eventually going to get fed up with the situation that's going on in New York City. And of course it's going to continue. It's probably going to show up next in Chicago. Of course, I've already explained the 2024 Democratic National Convention and how it's going to echo 1968. So go ahead and get ready for that. But the point is this right here. I said in that video that a lot of these protests were actually performative. You see, she was upset because the city council would not pass a resolution for a ceasefire in Gaza. Well, the thing is this right here. A city council in the state of California, a city council even in my home state of North Carolina, it's not going to be able to do anything as far as foreign policy is concerned. That right there is foreign policy. And even though somebody creates something like, say, a resolution, even like in front of the United Nations, that doesn't mean it's actually going to become a law or actually going to happen. So you're probably thinking that these things are in fact performative. And I'm going to go ahead and say right now that most of these things are in fact very, very much performative. However, there is one aspect of this that, quite frankly, I feel like a complete total dunce for not covering, and that's what happens to the protesters after this entire situation occurs. The reason why I bring up that question is because it hit me. These people are going to NYU, they're going to Columbia University, they're going to some pretty prestigious colleges. Now, why do you go to a prestigious college? Why do you go to an Ivy League university? You go there so that way you can become a doctor or a lawyer or something like that there. And of course, only the best of the best actually get their degrees. These are extremely hard institutions to graduate. Look, I live in a state that has Duke University about 2.5 hours away from my location. And that right there is as close to an Ivy League institution that you can get without actually being an actual little Ivy League institution. So it makes you wonder exactly what the hell the overall end game of these protests are. Well, like I've said in previous videos, these things right here are just an opportunity for the victimhood Olympics to continue. And of course, it's going to be much, much more rampant because, as I've said in previous videos, race wars and crap like that only occur once every 4 years whenever the presidential election is coming up. But the thing about it, the thing that I didn't mention is, like I said before, I didn't talk about what happens to the students after the protest. Meaning those ones that get arrested, those ones who don't show up to take finals, the ones who don't graduate. A lot of them end up going back home. But of course, some of these students are actually residents of this city itself, and some very, very large cities, in fact. Chicago, Boston, some of the largest cities in the country. And it makes you wonder, it just makes you wonder, how far is this movement going to go as far as radicalization is going to go? Well, before we get to that, I want to go ahead and play this where to kind of set up things, because Once again, the beanie guy comes out here and he says one thing and he turns right back around the next day. And of course, his mind has changed. And of course, we'll get to that here in a second. But I want to play this one right here first because it kind of is the essence of the entire situation.
At Columbia, for instance, they call it the People's University. They have a big sign saying, "Welcome to the People's University." What does that have to do with being anti-war? The corporate press then calls them all anti-war because they slap a label on themselves as if that is exactly what they're fighting for. When in reality, many of the things they claim to be advocating for are contradictory. I'll give you an example. Alex Stein went down to UT Austin and he was asking the people there. They said that they were LGBT for Palestine and things like this. And when he asked them, yes, but in Palestine, in Gaza, you go to prison or you could be killed for...
Alex Stein, by the way, would also approach Destiny recently at a show and just drag him, of course, for the fact that he got dumped by his ex-wife, whom he, by the way, allowed to cheat on him the entire time they were married. But I'm not here to rag on Destiny or anything like that. I'm just simply saying that Alex Stein is at it again. He's obviously going around trolling people like normal. I've got my praise for Alex, but I've also got my issues with him too. Just simply saying. These are, in fact, performative, and most of these protesters, quite frankly, don't know what the hell it is that they're protesting. Like, you take the very, very last part that I mentioned. In Palestine, in Gaza, where the Palestinians are, where Hamas lives, if you are discovered to be living a certain lifestyle, that right there being the LGBTQ lifestyle, if you're gay, chances are you may, in fact, go to prison, or you could get tossed off a building. They stone you. They kill you. That right there is what they do in the Middle East. Unless, of course, you live in Israel or maybe one of the more one of the more developed nations like, say, I don't know, Bahrain or the United Arab Emirates. But Saudi Arabia is pretty tough on this. I want to say the country of Jordan is pretty tough on it. Qatar, Yemen, of course, Iran, they don't put up with it either. It's the Sunni Muslims are not exactly okay with that. We've also got a lot here in the United States that aren't okay with it either. As a matter of fact, if you guys remember in Dearborn, Michigan, the Muslim population in that area got pride flags banned completely. And that right there is just being light because, of course, these things that, quite frankly, these students are protesting for, they quite frankly know absolutely nothing about. It's almost like saying chickens for Chick-fil-A or chickens for Kentucky Fried Chicken or steak for Longhorn. That's how stupid these people really and truly are.
What did they do? Continue. They physically attacked him. Now, outside of physically attacking a guy, they also physically attacked Ami Horowitz because he was waving an American flag. There you go. What shows that this is not really about Israel and Palestine is particularly the LGBT issue. I mean, to be fair, putting up a big sign saying "Welcome to the People's University" shows it's really just communism. And look, what they like to do is they say, see, when we protest for our rights, they call it communism. And I'm like, no, I'm saying that when you call it the People's University, when you say you're trying to seize the institution for the people, I'm calling that communism. And I'm saying that is the underlying organizing principle. And then you attach all of your ancillary pet issues to it. But the reality is it's an amorphous, chaotic blob with no real intent.
Now, I covered what Tim was saying in a previous video. And in the video that I covered, it was also in response to something that Matt Walsh said. I was echoing a lot of what he was saying, and the point was this here. These protests are opportunities for these students to come out and just put whatever grievances they've got out there. And you obviously saw the very, very beginning of this video and some of the things that were going on in the B-roll footage, the protests, people breaking doors, people breaking windows. This right here is kind of what they do. Now, there is one more thing before we move forward, because there's obviously a news report that we want to get to as well to kind of help clamp down on what's going on. There's one more thing that, quite frankly, does in fact need to be said, and it's this right here. A lot of these quote-unquote protesters, they're going to be in this situation where they're not going to be able to get a job at a high-end place to work. They're not going to be able to get a prestigious job. They're not going to be able to get a prestigious career. A lot of them get arrested, and even though the city of New York is pretty lax on how they jail people, it still doesn't mean that the arrest does not leave the record. Obviously, it's still there. It's there for these people to live with for the rest of their lives. It's obviously going to remain in said record. I don't know if these people know this or not, but anytime you go to a job interview, they do a background check. If they find any form of criminality in that background, and even if you didn't do any time in prison or whatnot, chances are they're probably not going to hire you. So next thing you know, you're probably going to be working a crap-end job. a lot of part-time jobs being floated around there. Of course, you're only getting about 8 to 9 hours a week. And even though you may be making $15 to $20 an hour at the end of the day in the city of New York and some of these bigger cities, that right there amounts to absolutely nothing. That's part of the reason why it is I should direct you to this video right here that Greg Foreman did about the minimum wage increase in the state of California. It's not amounting to anything because we've been telling you guys for a very long time, if you raise the minimum wage, the only thing that happens is the price of everything else just simply goes up. And with rampant inflation, it's already bad enough. So therefore, obviously, it's not working out. Meaning that the higher and higher and higher that you raise the minimum wage, it amounts to absolutely nothing because you're just simply paying more money for the product that you would have gotten cheaper. And of course, it hurts everybody else. So congratulations, dumbasses. Just figure I would go ahead and say thank you for ignoring the absolute obvious. You people did this to yourself. But in the process, you also went out of your way to screw everybody else too. If you want a good burger, I suggest if you're going to be paying $18 for said burger, you might as well just go ahead and go to Five Guys or Fuddruckers and get it, because obviously if I got to choose between a $20 McDonald's Big Mac and a burger from Five Guys, which is $20, I'm probably going to choose the Five Guys burger. Just saying that I'm obviously getting more bang for my buck. But let's get this news report.
Organizers and university officials continue, and the pressure is on for protesters and Columbia officials to reach a resolution. Commencement less than 3 weeks away now. News 4's Jessica Cunnington joins us live from Morningside Heights with the latest. Jess?
And it has been very quiet around here. It is a Saturday. There are many students that are getting ready for finals because the final day of classes is Monday. Now, pro-Palestinian student groups leading the encampment did not speak with reporters today, but the groups did post to social media earlier this evening saying that Columbia is considering a complete lockdown and evictions. The university tonight saying that is not true as both sides continue negotiations and protests heat up across the...
I know you guys just saw that news clip, the first part, but I want to go ahead and say this really quick because it's kind of the theme of this video here. Well, it's one of the underlying themes about these protesters, especially the ones that get arrested. I showed you guys some footage earlier that I'm showing you guys again of the girl who got arrested in Bakersfield, California for threatening the city council. Well, that same said girl, and of course I did do a video on this earlier, and I'll link it in the description box as well. That same said girl has been charged with 18 separate felonies. The company that she worked for openly came out and condemned her. The pro-Palestinian movement she worked with openly came out and condemned her. And as I mentioned earlier, she's got 18 felonies on record. And even if she does not pull any serious jail time, those felonies will still remain. Meaning that girl's life is completely screwed. Okay? At best, she's working at McDonald's. I'm just saying. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this first little segment because obviously there's a lot more to go in this video. But the thing about it is this right here. NYU and Columbia, they're trying to make it look like the police officers are not going to shut things down when we obviously know at some point in time it's going to get shut down. If I got to come back out here in 2 weeks from now and talk about this right here turning into Chaz Chop or Chaz 2.0, I'll be here to talk about that. But of course, if I get it wrong, I get it wrong. I mean, I'll be here to say, yeah, I got that one right there wrong. I didn't expect to go that far. My belief is that these protests will continue till all the way to the end of the school year, and you guys will see my rationale here in a second. But the thing is this right here. They're going to get broken up by the NYPD. And not only will they get broken up by the NYPD, but they'll probably pick up somewhere else. Like I said before, most of these students really and truly are protesting because it's an opportunity, okay? Every single one of these protesters, by the way, should, of course, be punished. Whether it be academic suspension or whatever, they should be punished. But still, at the same time, though, it kind of goes back to a previous video that I did, that one that I did where I was mostly talking about Matt Walsh's take on this right here just being the grievance Olympics 2.0. I also mentioned the fact that you had people like Jeremy the Quartering, and also including Tim Pool, too, who were saying, we don't need to be arresting these people under the guise of anti-Semitism. Okay, I agree with that, but there's a problem, though. You do need to arrest these people once they start getting rowdy and start going out of control, like in the University of Texas in Austin, or like in the campuses in Florida and in Georgia, as you guys probably saw in my video yesterday where you had the state trooper drag the girl out. The point is this right here. You're going to have to make arrests before these things turn into absolute riots, because if you don't, next thing you know, you're just going to have more property damage and the country just has another black eye. Of course, the country having a black eye is this country right here under probably the weakest president in American history. Anybody who says that they feel justified in voting for Joe Biden and they're dealing, look at this right here, these people are not mentally well, okay? That's all I'm going to say. Just get the hell away from them is all I got to say about that, but let's continue.
Soft chants could be heard from the Gaza Solidarity encampment on Columbia University's lawn after a quiet Saturday inside and outside campus gates.
The campus climate, I feel like it's definitely cooled down.
People have not, from my experience, have not wanted to go to campus. Even I only go to campus to go to the gym.
Dozens of students remain in the encampment and vow to stay there until Columbia divests from companies tied to Israel. Surrounding the tents, clear preparations for graduation less than 3 weeks away.
Everything I've seen, it's been a welcoming community. They've been holding events for all types of people. They have performers come.
The university canceling a virtual press briefing Saturday evening, releasing this update saying today was a quiet day on campus. Dialogue between university officials and student organizers is ongoing. There is no truth to claims of an impending lockdown or evictions on campus.
Before, NYU and of course Columbia and all the other schools in the New York City area are probably looking at this situation. They're saying we're going to need the cops to come in here. But they got to come in more as a cleanup crew, or they're going to be coming in to shut things down when things are quiet. I think that they're going to be forced to send the cops in a little bit faster. And like I said, I'm releasing this video right here on a Wednesday. And if anything happens before that, I'll have to go back and re-edit it and probably release it on Tuesday night, or maybe later on with the edits themselves, or have to remake certain portions of the video. Just giving you guys a bit of a heads up. But still, though, the point is this right here. This situation right here, it's probably going to come to an end soon, but it's probably going to pick back up somewhere else. That's basically the point I'm trying to get to. Finals are right there at the very end. But then again, though, you've also got those students that, quite frankly, just don't care.
Force that is our administration currently.
The protest here now in its second weekend and has sparked a wave of demonstrations at campuses across the city and country. At Northeastern University in Boston, more than 100 protesters were detained, police making arrests and clearing tents at the University of Indiana at Bloomington, and there were similar scenes at Arizona State University, and students at FIT here in New York joining NYU in building their own encampment against the war in Gaza.
It is hopeful in a way because I am encouraged that the world is paying attention to what's happening in Palestine.
Seniors with mixed feelings about how this could all impact commencement.
Knowing that there is such an issue that's happening across the country, not even Columbia anymore, I'm very much willing to sacrifice a graduation, one that I don't even want to attend, for a bigger purpose.
I don't want it to be canceled and to have a protest happening in the middle. I just want to get my degree, go home.
Now, there's a lot that I could cut up there. You got one guy saying, I don't care, I just want my degree. You got another person saying that I don't really care. This right here is bigger than getting college. I don't think you kids seem to understand. These are very, very prestigious institutions, and if you gaff them off, you're looking at a lifetime of absolute nothingness. You're not going to make any money or anything like that. Now, I know somebody's probably going to say that they've got mommy and daddy's money, because obviously mommy and daddy had to have a lot of money to send these kids to college. But the point is this right here. Even at some point in time, even those households realize that they can't just leave money to their kid who's a complete total failure. Even in those cases there, they realize that, oh my God, I can't cover this child for the rest of my life. Also, something else too, and I think I may have said this before, but a lot of these students actually live in the city of New York itself and probably don't plan on actually leaving. Some of them, by the way, are just simply going to college to party. And like I've said before, your tax dollars are going to eventually be used by the Biden administration to forgive their student loan debt. And I've talked about how screwed up that is. But imagine after everything that happens this year, who the hell is going to want to pay those student loans, or who the hell is going to want to pay these kids' debt? Just throwing it out there. So you're already creating, number one, resentment amongst the populace and the taxpayer. And a lot of these taxpayers, by the way, own a lot of local businesses that would be inclined to need help. And they find out that you, through a background check, got arrested for a protest at NYU University or Columbia University, or maybe you got into it with a cop or whatnot. Guess what's going to happen? You're not going to get hired. You'll be right there in the unemployment line collecting food stamps or whatever, or you may find yourself in the situation where it was that you just pissed away your only opportunity at a good degree, which now you can't get a job at a prestigious institution. And what about those ones that are radical, that do slip through the cracks and do eventually graduate and become lawyers and become doctors? Next thing you know, you've got scumbags in a field of study or a field of occupation where, quite frankly, It needs to be completely clean. It doesn't need any scumbags to begin with. What I'm saying is that this situation right here is bad all the way around for the students, but it's also bad for us, the actual consumer, the taxpayer, the people who are actually working, putting forth our efforts to ensure that this type of crap right here does not happen. But of course, once again, we got to deal with the fact that there are parents out there who obviously did not discipline their children when they were younger, which at the end of the day is what the hell the biggest problem is. Mommy and daddy didn't actually spank these children, these children. I think I just said children, but they didn't spank them. They didn't discipline. They didn't teach them or anything. And as I've said before, most of these students, quite frankly, don't know what the hell it is that they're protesting. And a lot of them are using this as an opportunity and a platform to bring in other communistic ideals. Speaking of the communistic ideals, I'm glad to see that the beanie guy finally caught on.
I think it's high time we don't tolerate any of this stuff. Don't care. All the Israel derangement syndrome people are going to be like, Tib's silly for Israel. These are communists. They're not anti-Israel. They're saying anti-Israel things to pander to people who don't like Israel, but they're just communists setting up the People's University. That was it right there for me. I'm like, okay, I'm done with this, right? They have no credibility. They're not protesting Israel. They couldn't tell you anything about the history of the region. They couldn't tell you anything about the conflicts, the wars, and the genocides that are currently going on. This is flavor of the month leftist garbage. And you're allowed to protest all of your stupid opinions. I got no beef. I certainly got stupid opinions, I'm sure. And I'd like to be able to protest them too. But these people use physical force and violence against other people to prevent them from speaking. So be it.
It's about time somebody had said something besides me or any of the other content creators out there who don't like this, because normally you get content creators who obviously are looking for that extra buck, who are looking for that extra viral sensation, or they're looking to stay to their grift, which quite frankly is to be extremely pro-free speech regardless, no matter what. I'm very, very much a pro-free speech absolutist, but still at the same time, though, I also understand danger, and I've never actually hid that about me, nor will I ever hide that about me at all. Yes, these people do need to be arrested. Yes, these people do need to have the handcuffs put on them. Yes, these people do need to be, in fact, locked up. However, like I said before, you screw around, you find out. These kids obviously have screwed around, and they have found out. So, that brings me to this tweet right here. This tweet right here is from Tommy Robinson. It's of a gentleman who was given a little bit of a spiel outside of one of these universities. And I'm not going to play the full thing because it's over 6 minutes long. What I am going to do is I'm going to play bits and pieces of it through the Timcast show or the Timcast episode. And the reason why is because obviously it's looking at the politicians who, quite frankly, are allowing this crazy stuff to occur because they, quite frankly, didn't do anything about this, the people who, quite frankly, are in power. And as I mentioned before, the politicians, of course, what happens? They need these people's votes. So, of course, they're going to continue to pander to them. So even if you hear someone like, say, Eric Adams condemn Hamas, just know that about not even 2 hours later, he's going to suddenly need their vote. So he's probably going to want to play the other side of the aisle, which, of course, is going to lead to absolute destruction for the Democrats this summer. But, of course, we'll talk more about that in video number 2 tomorrow because we got to talk about the mainstream media meltdown, which I did not preview in this video. But let's take a look at this next segment. And like I said, that tweet from Tommy Robinson, which complains the whole thing, I will link it in the description box for you guys to check out. Let's roll it.
Nush Shafiq of Columbia University, you are a coward. Because if President Biden can come up and say, no, this is unacceptable, this is inhumane.
There's no justification for terrorism. There's no excuse.
And if Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, is able to say, this is not okay.
This was something that shows Hamas must be disbanded and destroyed immediately.
And well, what do you foment on universities? They don't like Biden. They don't like Adams. And I'll say this, Shy. Joe Biden had his very fine people moment, they call it, when he said, I condemn the anti-Semitism, and I also condemn people who don't know what's going on in Palestine. Yep.
That's true. And I can promise you right now that even that instructor voted for Biden. There's a viral clip going around of a New York construction worker, and I can't play it here, but you guys obviously are going to see it right here in the B-roll footage. And he was talking about the fact that it looked like the tide was turning in New York City. I'm not saying that New York's going to flip red. That's not what I'm saying, okay? I'm not that delusional. I haven't seen enough information, even though obviously the Republican nominee is gaining. What I'm trying to say is this right here. A lot of people are now seeing that this business of trying to play both sides of the aisle and both sides of the coin, it's not working. I just said earlier that Eric Adams, he's going to sit here and, like you heard, he's going to condemn Hamas, but then he's going to turn right back around not even an hour later, and he's going to need their vote. He's going to say we need to get the Hispanics out of here who, quite frankly, came across the border, but then he's going to say I need proper faculty and proper facilities to keep these people right where they are. I've also told you guys in previous videos, speaking on the Hispanic topic, that Hispanics are not stupid. They're actually very, very smart, and Democrats may be relying on a vote for one cycle to only then turn right back around and lose that same vote the next 3 or 4 cycles and not even exist. Just pointing it out there that the current woke left and the current woke Democratic Party is not exactly compatible with those who are traditionally much, much more conservative, but because obviously certain little liberties are given to one from one side of the aisle, obviously it happens. And of course, we're already seeing things divide up. Black voters are jealous of Hispanics who are getting these types of benefits. Oh, that's why Hispanics are not liking it. They're natural enemies. I'm just going to go ahead and say that right there. And of course, YouTube's probably going to want to limit the ads in this video. Here's the reason why the second video is coming out. Still, the point is this right here. They're inviting an absolute hornet's nest is what they're doing. But this last part's roughly 1 minute and 50 seconds. I want you guys to pay very, very close attention to this because there's something biblical here at the very end that, quite frankly, I need to go ahead and lay out there for you guys. But it's roughly 1 minute and 50 seconds. So just pay attention.
Intifada, they say. Intifada. What does intifada mean? Well, let's do this. Let's maybe I can go back here and timeline of the Intifada. There was the first Intifada, the second Intifada, and an Intifada is a rebellion or uprising. As it pertains to Palestine, it means the shaking off, the tremor, the shivering, the shuddering. And so what does that translate into? It translates into, here's a list of Palestinian suicide attacks and largely targeting civilians. It's Hamas. Hamas enjoys overwhelming support in Gaza. And here's a list of all the attacks. And take a look at this. In 1997, there's 5. 1998, there's 2. Now take a look at 2001. A massive expansion. Into the 2000s, terror attacks had started skyrocketing. And they've gone down a bit. Here you can see there's a bit less, for sure. This is Intifada. Mass shootings, people being killed. Now, I'm not highlighting this to say they're all bad and wrong and I'm taking a side in this conflict and Israel, the poor victims. It's a war. Israel is bombing Gaza. Palestine and Hamas are attacking Israel. My point is only to say, while you may be critical of everything that Israel does when it comes to bombing areas with civilians and all of that stuff, yep, because Gaza is all these, it's civilians intermixed with Hamas fighters. So that's what you get in war. My point is, when they say Intifada, they are saying keep the war going. That's what they're saying.
I'll let that play for 1 minute and 50 seconds, and I'll tell you exactly what I got out of that. But by the way, I watched it on multiple occasions, and I'm not here to tell you that I'm not here to tell you every single thing wrong with what was said, what Tim was saying as far as like what's going on with this Antifada stuff. What it boils down to is we want to keep the war going, but yet we want a 6-week ceasefire. Yet at the same time, we want to free Palestine from all that type of crap there. Let me go ahead and say this. What it tells me is that this situation, they don't want it to end. They want it to continue. And they've obviously found a group of idiotic teenagers to go along with it. And idiotic people in their 20s. Trust me, there's a lot of them. But I want to say this right before they go any further. Because I'm very, very much a free speech absolutist. And I understand hate speech and I understand non-hate speech and all that stuff there. But to the people out there who are screaming that hate speech is free speech, I want to ask you a question. Would you be saying that if the same person was about to, I don't know, scream from the river to the sea while having a knife in their hand and pushing you into a corner where somebody is waiting behind you to knock you out or kill you? The reason why I ask that is because, you see, the thing is this right here. A lot of these people will sit here and say that, not realizing that they're actually muddying the waters between action and non-action. My view on freedom of speech is this right. You're allowed to say whatever you want, and I'm very much in favor of that. However, if you say something overtly stupid or you scream something overtly stupid, the person who's on the other end receiving what you're saying has that right to put you in your place. It's called Society Checks the Dumbasses. God has a funny way of weeding people out. To quote a famous NC state trooper who taught me motor vehicle law when I was in the law enforcement academy. What I'm simply saying to you is that the vast majority of these people are speaking incoherent nonsense. And to go on top of their incoherent nonsense, they're showing you that they are actual, honest-to-God enemies of the nation, the true believers in there. They hate America. They always have hated America. They're extremely far-left radical communists. And, of course, you've got people out there on this platform and other platforms who will still, under any circumstances, continue to simp for these people, saying that they still have a right to hate speech. And my response is, yes, they have a right to hate speech. But society has a right to correct the hell out of their dumb asses. And that right there is what I'm saying. These protests, for the most part, are in fact performative. They are very, very much performative. Most of these people have no idea what it is that they're protesting. However, they are obviously being supported by some very, very negative entities. And I'm finally glad to see that the Beanie Guy finally realizes that these types of things do in fact need to fully be shut down, and people can see exactly what these are. They're just simply performative to get other forms of BS, of victimhood, because this is the Victimhood Olympics 2.0, 2024 presidential year. Race wars only happen once every 4 years. It's just another opportunity for these people to go out here and throw their communistic bullshit in everybody's faces. However, unlike in 2020, I think the crowd that is absolutely sick and tired of this nonsense is much, much larger. F around and find out, that's all I got to say. But you guys tell me what you think in the comment section. I'll see you guys later. This video is going to be coming out on Wednesday. Please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comment section. See you guys later.